Let's now shift our focus to what is unfolding in Japan now, where the leaders of the group of 7 nations have vowed to tighten sanctions against Russia, saying that they will starve Russia's war machine and those supporting its war effort. The G7 leaders are also recalibrating their approach towards China and are lowering its economic might. While the leaders of the G7 nations met, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in the Japanese city of Hiroshima. And India is, of course, present at the G7 meeting as an observer. And all eyes will, of course, be on this meeting with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the Indian Prime Minister, which is scheduled to take place on Saturday. This will mark their first in-person interaction since Russia invaded Ukraine. Moreover, when the Indian Prime Minister arrived at Hiroshima, he met with the Indian diaspora who gathered just to catch a glimpse of the Indian Prime Minister. And WION's principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant, of course, was there. And this, of course, was the welcome that was accorded to the Indian Prime Minister in Hiroshima by members of the Indian diaspora. Listen.
So a lot of commotion here. The Indian diaspora really very enthusiastic to welcome the Indian Prime Minister. You can see behind me the visuals of the Indian Prime Minister being welcomed by the members of the Indian diaspora. Very enthusiastic welcome of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi here at the hotel where the Indian Prime Minister is staying. And of course, these are the shots which are usually played out everywhere the Indian Prime Minister goes. The members of the diaspora are trying to shake hands, say hello to the Indian Prime Minister, take selfies as well. We have seen in the past as well these kind of visuals of the diaspora. But if we talk about the presence of the diaspora, there is a significant presence of the diaspora in Hiroshima, in Japan.
Unlike the G7 nations, India has maintained a neutral position on war. New Delhi has urged that dialogue is the only way forward and the blood shed in this war should end. However, it has not directly condemned the war and it has not condemned Russia as the aggressor. But it looks like Kiev, of course, is trying to come to some kind of a middle ground by holding meetings with Narendra Modi and addressing last year's G20 summit. It is a sign that Volodymyr Zelensky is now making his pitch to Global South. And while heading for the G7 meeting, the Indian Prime Minister had said that he will amplify the concerns of the Global South at the summit. And also our principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant, who is presently in Hiroshima tracking the developments of the G7, has sent us this ground report. Listen in.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is here in Hiroshima and it's packed for the Indian Prime Minister. He has 5 bilaterals on Saturday, including a key one with the Ukrainian President Zelensky. Now, this will be the first meeting between the two leaders since the conflict started last year in Europe, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We know that the Indian side has maintained that both sides, Kyiv and Moscow, needs to sit together and resolve the ongoing conflict. The Ukrainian side will be keen that when it comes to the Indian presidency of the G20, they are invited to attend the summit. But by and large, there is the Quad summit as well. The one that got cancelled in Sydney is going to happen in Hiroshima on Saturday evening. But essentially, India will be trying to have more and more conversation, the Indian Prime Minister, and send out a message that India is willing to play an important role in the global governance architecture. With video journalist Sanjeet Siddhant for WION in Hiroshima, Japan.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.